Hi, I'm Michelle Olivier, and you're listening to Hey, I Want Your Job, the podcast that looks at amazing jobs and what it takes to get them. Hey, and welcome to Hey, I Want Your Job. And today I have somebody who a little bit I have her job, but she's still more awesome than me. So we're going to talk to her about her take on it. Liz Bronson, what is your job title?
This week, my job title is CEO/lead consultant.
Oh, that sounds sexy as hell.
I know,
what do you
right?
do though?
Well, for the last 8 years, I have owned and run Liz Bronson Consulting, very creatively named. And there's a story behind that. But what we do is we come into companies, generally smaller or startup-y companies, and we either are or augment their recruiting and HR teams. So we'll do everything from policies to the full recruiting process to advising on people issues, whatever they need that they don't have staff to support.
So I am, as you're aware, not shy about my views on many of these things or the work that I do in a similar space. So I am very excited to compare notes because I know that we agree on a lot, but we actually disagree on some things as well, which I think will probably be the most interesting part for everybody involved.
Probably.
It usually is, right? Mm-hmm. So let's start with the one that I am famous for shouting about a lot. I think resumes are the worst. I think that resumes are tools of oppression and racism, etc. Mm-hmm. What is your take?
I'm mixed. I actually had this Michelle-ish thought this weekend that we should take dates off resumes so that people aren't judging on the dates or like telling the story behind the story on the dates or things like that. An application, different, but a resume, like, why do I need to know? If I can see that you moved up in your role, if you did it in a year, you did it in 5, like, why do I care? So it was a Michelle-ish thought on resumes.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you very much. I like a professional profile where someone like you or me can look at somebody's history and at least start to figure out the story and to at least start to figure out if there is a basic skills fit. So if I'm looking for a Java engineer and I see I need something where I can see Java and Java projects and Java stuff. And it can't just be your like GitHub page because I can't read that. So I need something that tells the non-technical person that you've got the Java. Same if I'm looking for a CPA, I need some kind of document that shows that you've been working as a CPA in a certain capacity. So I am a fan of the professional picture. That said, I agree with you. And we can talk about this more, but like people do pay people to do their resumes. There is definitely like you, there is definitely a classes thing. There are people do not, which this is like something I can get on a soapbox for hours, but like, why aren't people taught in school to do their resumes? Why isn't that taught in high school? Why isn't that taught in college? It's beyond my comprehension. But besides the fact, people need that skill, and certain people have access to that and certain people don't. So I agree with you on that, but I do believe in an easy to read and thought out professional profile so that someone like you or me can figure out what the person does.
So I don't actually disagree on that. I think that we definitely need some kind of a tool to be able to figure out who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
And what you do.
Yep.
So that is true. I just don't think that a resume is a great choice because to me, a resume just says how much success you have had at playing a bad game. We know that there's institutionalized racism, sexism, homophobia, all of those things. And I know that you are also a passionate ally on all of those things. So 100%. I know that you are not in the asshole problematic camp. So, but so to me, like all a resume does is document how good or bad you have been at playing this really, really bad game. That what you and I need is to know how good you are at Terraform.
Mhm.
or how good you are at Java or what have you, whatever the skill is for recruiting. And
Mhm. Mhm.
there are a lot more effective ways of finding that out. So I know you and I met with a provider that says that they have the solution to resumes, and we were both impressed with some parts of that. So that provider does a lot of assessments that let people come in and just measure their
Mhm.
abilities rather than applying with a resume. And I
Mhm.
know we both dug that idea.
Mhm.
There were
Mhm.
problems in terms of the ADA compliance and that sort of thing, but
Yeah.
otherwise, how would you feel about recommending to a client a tool like that that had the bugs worked out
Mhm.
that would do just, we do it all, this no resumes, just results. So that if you needed a Java person, you would go to the database and be like, I need somebody who scored 80% on their Java. And
Yep.
the rest, I don't care.
I think for some roles that'd be awesome. I think that there are certain things like if you're a big company, how are you assessing can this person deal with big company red tape and process and things going slowly and lack of autonomy or whatever. So there's certain soft skills that need to also be assessed to see if the person's a fit. I also
But you
believe in
wouldn't get that
talking to
from a
people.
resume anyway.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So,
Well, but if I am if I'm big company A and I see that you've been at big company B for 7 years, I'm like, they're probably pretty good at this
except when they're
thing.
not, because you and I both know about the exceptions that prove the
Oh,
rule.
sure.
Loads of
Yes.
people, like I have been guilty of being like, oh, I'm recruiting for a big four. This person came from a big four. Obviously, they're a one-to-one match. Oh, hell no.
Mm-mm,
They hid in
mm-mm.
like a broom closet or some shit for like 5 years. They were at the competitor. I don't
Oh
even
my
know. They
goodness.
had an uncle or something. I don't know how it happened, but like then they get in front of my client and they're like,
Mhm.
what did you send? And where did you find this mongrel? I'm like,
Ah!
they're
But
at your
that's
competitor.
right, but that's see, but now we're going forget resumes.
Oh,
This is the
yeah.
problem with our business. We deal with people. People are nuts
They're
and they're
awful.
different and they lie. And I mean, we've both been in this business a long time. And so we have seen the best and the worst and everything in between. And so we don't trust anything.
Yeah.
And so I know that your resume could be like, oh my God, this person's perfect. And I get on with you. I'm like, oh my God, I never want to talk to you again. So we've had all that. And
Yeah.
and
A few
so
times last week. So
so everything we come in contact with is a data point, not a decision point.
yeah.
And
I think
therefore,
that's a really good way of phrasing it. And I think that if
I
you
know.
phrase it like that, that
Hmm.
then it makes it a lot easier to remove yourself from it. That okay, we need a data point around your experience and skills that's a low touch, low cost data point.
Yep.
In general, we use resumes for that. But
Hmm.
if there was a different tool that gave better data,
Great.
awesome. I
I'm
like that.
in.
I may
But
steal that phrasing.
hey, go for it. It's on your podcast, so it's yours.
I meant like in life, I was going to steal it, but I mean,
Totally.
definitely I'm going to steal it from my podcast, Liz, clearly.
For sure.
Um, so you and I also agree on something that I think is really contentious within the recruitment industry right now.
Mhm.
And I think you're better advocate for it than I am because
Mhm.
I tend to say really just kind of throw away things about it. I'm a big believer that contingency recruitment is probably 80% of the problem with recruitment. What is your take on that? First of all, for people who don't know, what does contingency recruitment mean? Why is it the problem? And what should we be doing instead?
So I'll give you your 80%, but I could probably be brought down to like 70 because I believe contingency recruitment is a problem, but also overworked internal recruitment's the problem.
Yeah.
And it's not the individuals necessarily, but it's the fact that their load and the amount of people they're juggling at once and all that. But let's go to contingent recruitment for a minute because it is my special place of anger. So, what is contingent recruitment? It is basically recruiters that are only paid a percentage of the base salary, usually, if the person is hired.
Mhm.
So, if I meet you, I put you up for a job and you don't take it, I might not make my mortgage that month. So there is an inherent ethical dilemma in the nature of work. There is also an inherent reason not to work so hard. Why am I going to dig through and find the needle in the haystack and take all day if I'm not guaranteed money for it? And you could have 6 contingent firms working on something at once. Usually it's not exclusive. I have done exclusive contingent in my earlier days, but even that, oh, we decided not to hire it. I was exclusive on the job they didn't hire. You want to know how much money I made?
Applicant. Yeah, we had an internal applicant. Oh no, that was a referral. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think so that's part of, so the piece that you haven't said that I want to make sure that we acknowledge as well is that contingency recruitment, you get paid a percentage of the salary.
Yeah.
Which also means that you have no incentive to either support any candidate that would not be a high earner.
Right.
So if you have 3 candidates in the hunt and you in your heart know that candidate C is the best candidate for a match for this company, but candidate C would have the lowest salary, it is against your interest to support candidate C. And in fact, I know recruiters who have sabotaged candidate C to make sure that candidates A or B who had the higher salary were there. And it also puts you in an adversarial position with the company because you're disincentivized from telling them what real market is. No, market is totally 500K. That is exactly what you need to pay them always. Also 500K for admins. Basically any job I ever recruit for you, that's market.
Right. Yeah. You're not incentivized to be a partner or a consultant. Yeah. Some people think of it as a hired gun, but it's not a gun. I don't even know. It's like a Frisbee, but basically the general process is they go into their database. If it's for a Java engineer, they're Java. They reach out to everyone who has Java on their resume. Anyone who comes back interested, they throw to the client as fast as possible because they need to be the first one to get the person in. And then they've crossed their fingers. And then they tell the hiring manager, oh yeah, this person's great. It's a race. So there is no benefit to quality.
Yeah.
Because when you're racing, you don't have time for the quality because someone else might throw it against the wall before you and then you get 0 because you tried to have quality.
And I know I have worked for, and I'm sure we both have. I've worked for companies that had a 24-hour promise that within 24 hours, we will get you like X number of resumes. And even when I worked for those companies, I was like, I'm going to straight up tell you that on all of our advertising, we say this. I'm not going to do that because it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I can't, can I send you some 3 resumes? Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You just want to look at some resumes. I got you. You want 3 people that have actually been appropriately screened, are quality applicants? No, because it's the Tuesday and they've got shit to do today. Like the people you really want are probably already working for your competitor and it's going to take more than 24 hours to get them on the phone. So,
and then you've got the recruiter telling the person who says, oh, I can't talk to you today. Can we talk Thursday? And they're like, no, we've got to talk today. This job is going to go in a minute, and putting all this pressure on the candidate.
Yes.
It's just,
nobody wants that experience. Nobody.
No.
It's bad for your business. It's bad. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that it is this contingency recruitment that is why people get ghosted. Because it turns human beings into a commodity. You are, like I tell my people all the time, to recruiter, you are the cheeseburger, which they are trying to package and sell to the hungry customer that is their hiring managers and client.
Yeah.
So they have as much emotional investment in you as your average fast food worker does in a cheeseburger.
Right. Well, and if I have 10 candidates to turn down and I spend 30 minutes turning them down, 40 minutes turning them down, that's time not filling other jobs. So again, I'm a contingent recruiter. I am not incentivized for candidate experience at all. The only time I am is when the hiring manager says, I like Michelle. And so I'm like, hey, Michelle, best friend Michelle, do you know this job is the greatest thing ever? You really want it. And all of a sudden I am literally like your barnacle because
Friending you on Facebook, liking the pictures of your kids. Absolutely.
We are so close because I am so invested in you, Michelle, taking this job. You and you alone, and the other candidate that they liked also. But you, because once I get them on the hook with you, I've got to see it through because that's how I get paid.
Yeah. No, I agree. Obviously, I agree. But yeah. So I think it's really interesting. I also have a problem with the fact that even internal recruiters, everybody involved gets treated, targeted, trained, etc., as a salesperson. And I feel like as long as recruitment is sales, you're going to get assholes. Like ultimately. And that piece I think is more complicated. I'm not entirely sure how to fix that targeting. What is your thought? Like what should targeting for recruiters look like instead to make them start not being dicks?
Well, so I see it similarly, but differently. So one of the things I see is recruitment has a low to no barrier to entry. And can have very high paydays.
Yes.
So you get the scrappy person who, the used car salesperson mentality of like, yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to do whatever I have to do and get these fills and get a lot of money. And so with that low barrier to entry, a lot of people enter. And so that is, I think, part of the issue is that anyone can call themselves a recruiter. So that is part of the issue. The sales piece that I think is, I've said often, I'm a pimp. I sell people to companies. I also sell companies to people. So I'm a two-sided marketplace. Now, the delta there is authenticity because I will sell it to you, but if you say, I don't want to work at a startup that really gives me anxiety, I'll be like, then this is not for you. And I will reverse sell it and take it away because it's not what you want.
Yeah.
But I think sales skills, and what I mean by sales skills is the ability to talk about something coherently, the ability to have good customer service and follow up and keep people in the loop and move things through a process. Those are important skills to have as a recruiter. Organization and the ability to juggle multiple opportunities at once. Like these are all core skills that are needed in both sales and recruiting. What I think differentiates really good people in recruiting are people who have empathy and people who have business intuition so that they can advise hiring managers and see the bigger picture and see how each hire impacts the organization and advise accordingly.
See, and that to me, to my mind, recruitment should be a partner with
100%.
hiring managers in terms of succession planning, in terms of how they want to grow their team, like an active partner. Like if you are the recruiter for team X, like you should be meeting quarterly to be like, hey, how's your team? How's the synergy? Okay. So that you know what they need. And my experience is that is not like almost ever is that how it gets treated. And I think that a big part of that is that hiring managers see recruiters as low skilled, jumped up call center operatives. And they're not always wrong, Liz.
I know, but that's how we be the cream of the crop and we rise to the top.
Obviously, the best of us.
But seriously, so if I was talking to when I was a full internal recruiter, if I was talking to a hiring manager, like, we're doing our quarterly planning for, hiring, I'm like, I want to be in there.
Yeah.
And then I'm in there asking challenging questions. And so they always saw me as different than the order taker type of recruiter. And so you have to get yourself to the table by saying you should have me at that meeting, especially, well, maybe not especially, but working in tech the way I mostly have, they don't always intuitively think to bring me to the table. So I'm like, knock, knock, I'm here. And I tell them I should be at the table and why. And when I'm at the table, I then again prove why, so that next time they're like, oh, we want Liz in there. She added a lot last time.
And I think that works great
Mhm.
with some of the smaller companies that you work with.
Mhm.
Now, it's a lot harder
Mhm.
if you are, recruiter for Google to walk in
Mhm.
and be like, okay, here's what's going to happen.
Here's how I run my show.
Right. I understand that we are the Titanic, but I'm about to be
Mhm.
your iceberg in recruitment. Here's what's going to happen. Like it's just a lot harder said than done. And I feel like there is almost an organizational shift. Like your
Mhm.
organization has to support and approach recruitment as that partnership, or it's not something that you can force.
Right.
And I feel like that's really fucking obvious. So why is it not the norm? Like, what is your thought? Like, how the fuck did we get here and how do we get out of it?
Oh,
'Cause nobody likes
amen.
it. Nobody
No.
likes where we are.
Well, and here's the thing. It's on your HR and talent leadership to be like, my people are at the table. You know,
Yeah.
that this is our culture. This is how we run our business, is that these are your partners. But how we got there is that HR in the past were the paper pushers. Fill out this form, fill out this form. Don't forget this form. We are not compliant with this form. Like, it was all pain in the ass stuff that nobody wanted to do. And so people are like, I'm running from HR because they are the pain in the ass people. And HR has evolved to be more of the consultative from the business perspective, or at least that's where I see progressive companies going.
Progressive companies. Yes.
Yes. Now that's so, it was like HR can help me not get fired because like I said something egregious to an employee, but they weren't seen as anyone you wanted in the room. You didn't
Yes.
want
They
them
were
in
the
the
fun
room.
police. Absolutely.
When they were in
Nobody
the room,
wants.
something bad had happened. Ugh.
Yes.
So,
Or they were looking for something to make something bad happen by
yes.
calling you out on an innocent joke or what have you. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Having been the
So,
HR girl, yeah.
yeah, it's good times. Everyone loves you. So, it's up to us as leaders in this space to change the mindset. And I do it from the top. When I'm working with a 20-person startup, I'm like, hey, CEO, we're besties. Like, I'm your person. You need to come to me with that. And when they do something and say something, oh, we were talking in this, why wasn't I in that meeting? I should have been in that meeting. So, and if I had people under me at that company, if I was in a full-time space or whatever, we should have been in that meeting. She should have been in that meeting, whatever it is. So it's just about leaders changing perceptions, but also fighting for their people to be where they need to be. But also, add on, training their people to be in that room, because nothing's worse than the person who has no idea why they're there and can't add value.
That's
Have
because
the confidence to do it.
I know so many recruiters who, even ones who have been in the game for a long time,
Uh-huh.
and all they know is typing in a search to whatever database they use,
Yep.
feeling like asking the 5 interview questions that come from HR. And it
Yeah.
is amazing to me how that happens. Like
Mhm.
I mean, maybe I'm just a nerd, but like I was in recruitment for like a hot minute and I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
this shit is dumb. There has to be better.
Right.
And then I went out and did research and I learned and like got involved in finding better ways to screen and interview candidates and ways
Mhm.
to not, kind of came to understand more about it. But I know people who have been in the game for 20 plus years.
Mhm.
And Liz, I wouldn't want them at that table. They
Mm-mm.
wouldn't have anything to add.
Right.
They
But
would
I
be able to bitch about candidates they didn't like. They would be able to tell you what candidates tell them they're looking for money
Mhm.
wise.
Mhm.
But in terms of turning around and saying, our process is bad
Yeah.
and it pisses people off,
Mhm.
maybe we should change it. Like they don't have that. And they don't know if it's that they lack the ability or if they
Mhm.
lack, as you say, the training. You are more of an optimist than me. I assume people are just like obviously stupid and
Right.
you can't fix stupid. So
No, but I also don't hire stupid.
You don't hire stupid.
I
No.
don't. So if I am the HR recruiting, whatever you want to call it, leader, I'm going to not only hire smart, savvy people that understand the business and that I've interviewed so that I know that they can sit at that table. If they show potential to do that, but maybe they're a little rough around the edges, I can train that. But like your 20-year order taker, I ask these 5 questions. Like, no, you're not. Like, I wouldn't hire them for my team.
Yeah.
So you got to see who's trainable and who's not.
Yeah, it is. I keep seeing, so on LinkedIn, right? I keep seeing all of this from really seasoned recruiters who will show up and be like, I've been in recruitment for a bajillion years. And I asked those questions. Well, those are asshole questions. So you've been an asshole for a bajillion years. I'm not sure why you would want to shout about that.
Right. Because they don't know not to. Because they're not the cream of the crop.
No, I know.
They're not the cream of the crop.
I just don't understand it. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I guess, and part of my question, I guess maybe part of the problem is and this is a religious argument. So is TA HR? Is it DEI? Is it its own thing? Where should talent acquisition sit within an organization?
It's all of it. It's talent. So here's the thing. It's talent, right? And talent, and I actually don't even like the term talent because it makes it sound like special snowflakes and like, I'm talented. Like, screw it. It's people stuff.
They are. To all of my clients out there and all of my candidates, you are all special little snowflakes, and I adore you all.
We all are. But sometimes you don't need, like, what is talent? Like, it's your people stuff. Okay. So it's people, and people means how you treat your people before, during, and after their interaction with your company. And that could be, I mean, I think the client thing mirrors it, right? But we're talking about employee stuff. So your HR/talent/people leader, your people leader sits at the helm of that. And your people leader needs to make sure there are DEI programs in place, that there are ERGs, that there are ways for your diverse people to making sure there's stopgaps, making sure that they are included and celebrated and comfortable and treated well in your organization, or you lose them instantaneously. So there's also the whole hiring piece. How do we find the right people and bring them in? How do we keep the people and help them grow? And how do we offboard people, make sure other people are cross-trained and we're treating people well on their way, and finding out why they're leaving to move them back into the retention pool. So that is your people organization's job. So all things related to people needs to sit under that umbrella, I believe.
That's interesting. So I don't know that I entirely disagree. I do wonder if, though, I mean, ultimately, any organization, everything is people.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep.
Right. Operations is people. Marketing is people. Every single part of it. So taken at a broad enough perspective, your argument would then be that the people person just is the CEO. Because
well, your CEO better care about their people. Or
my point is, like, all of it is people related. And part of me wonders if what would help fix things is if we quit making TA the redheaded stepchild of HR and moved it instead to ops. And then that creates a more natural partnership between talent and your hiring managers, as opposed to that, like, nobody wants the HR girls in the room kind of feeling.
Right.
Have a dotted line to DEI, which I think should be in the C-suite on their own, personally. So,
well, and it depends how big you're a 20 person or you don't have a DEI person.
For the kind of companies that you and I work with on the regular, it's like all of this is 3 people total.
Right. Yeah. So I think your head of people, your people person, who's also the people accountable for D&I are your CEO and your head of people. Right. And if there's a job running D&I for the company because it's big enough, that's in that mix, right? But your CEO and your head of people are those two people. And I think those two should be pretty much attached to the hip, because I agree. I don't agree in putting TA in ops because it's too central to the business and to how we treat that whole piece on treating the people. But I think any decision at the company, be it a riff, be it going remote, be it anything, involves anything that involves people. We're going to change our comp plans. We're going to change how we incentivize salespeople. We're going to work on our stock incentives. The people person has to be at the table at all of those discussions. So we're going to change how we support customers. Is it a 24/7 business? Well, that affects people's jobs. So guess who's at the table? Which is why you need enough HR and people employees to support your people stuff, or else you're going to burn that person out so fast your head will spin. But I believe there should be someone from that people function at the table for pretty much every business decision. Do they need to know, do we use Java or Python? Probably not, because like they're not going to add to that conversation. But we have all Java developers and we're going to replace them with all Python developers. Yes, because I want to say, can we retrain?
Yeah, absolutely.
What can we do? So that is a people function. You want your people advisor there. If you think of your people function as advisors to the business, they are there for every operational and functional people related business decision, which is pretty much every decision.
So one of the trends right now that we see and people bitch about a lot, and I think increasingly justifiably, is that there is it's like businesses suddenly realized that 20-minute interviews were a shit plan to try to select anybody. But now, like, instead of doing something reasonable, they've gone the other way in the extreme. And so I have everybody, all of my candidates I'm working with in the gaming industry are having like multiple major projects that take hours of time to do.
No.
Very famously, some of the largest names in tech have 8 interview plus rounds. So
Bullshit.
yeah, I would agree with all of that. So what, in your less than humble occasionally opinion, do you think, what should a hiring process look like in 2021? If you just, I gave you a magic crayon and was like, Liz, go for it.
Yeah.
Draw what it should be. What would that look like?
It's going to be different for every job, right? But if I take both the candidate perspective and the business perspective, which is kind of what I do, I think, who does the candidate need to meet with to make a decision for themselves, so that we make sure that they know their job, they know their potential coworkers, they know everything they need to know about the company, the process, how things really are, yada, 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 so that they can make the best decision for themselves. And who does the company need them to meet with to assess certain skills that they need to have coming into this job? So it's again, with a two-sided marketplace, you have to think from both of those perspectives. I don't think people should meet with more than 6 people. I think you can probably figure it out without that. Now, some jobs, some companies, like an online Java assessment to figure it out, great. And they can do that on their own and it's 10, 15 minutes. I don't think in today's day and age, anyone should be doing a full-on project, a presentation. I kind of like the download our product and let me know what you think. If I'm a technical person and I don't want to check out the product I'm going to be signing up to work on 40 plus hours a week, then like, what's wrong with me? So I'm cool with something like that. But I am not cool with like, put together an 80-page PowerPoint to teach us about ourselves. Like, that's just asshole. And I think for people who do presentations, like sales engineers or those kinds of folks, have them present their own product to you. They know that they can do that. They should be able to do that really well because they do it every day. So you can still see someone's presentation skills without making them recreate the wheel. So those are some of the things that I think, but I don't think someone needs to meet with all 10 members of the team. That's ridiculous. Probably all 10 members of the team don't want to interview either.
I don't know. I feel like more and more people it's one of the interviewing, being involved in the interview process is one of those like things people get excited about in my experience. And I don't know if it's just like a change to their day or if they view it as like a resume building moment, but it does seem to be a thing. I do think my frustration with the presentations, I like the whole asking people to do the job and then measuring whether or not they can do the job. Like ultimately, that's my jam completely. Which is why I like assessment centers, because you get to do that. You can invite anybody from the team you want. If every fucker wants to show up and watch them do the assessment center, fan dabby dozy. And I have worked with companies where that's literally what we did, right? We brought in the 5 candidates they were interested in. The whole team took the day off to come and do the Liz, I just work here, you know, I do what you want me to do. So the whole team took the day off to come and do the assessment center. And then they all sat around and excitedly waited on the results of the assessment center. And then the top 3 candidates decided between them who they liked. That, whatever. At least in that model, the candidates were not being inconvenienced. You want to do some wackadoodle shit on your back end and make your life more difficult than it needs to be. I think that's very different from making it the candidate's problem. And so, and I also have a problem with the companies that require candidates to do presentations that produce usable work. I think that's bullshit.
100%. Write an article on us. Screw you.
Yeah. Or, hey, design a marketing campaign for this new product we're going to be launching.
Right.
Absolutely
No.
not. Absolutely not. They should never be asked to produce usable work unless you're going to pay them market rate. Because
100%.
I've heard this, like, we're going to give you $200 payment for your time. No, bullshit. My hourly rate is this. It's going to take me this many hours. Like, no. So, and no company wants to, but I agree with you. It's not necessary. If you're hiring salespeople, they've already sold shit. Just tell them to sell you the thing that they're already selling now.
Right.
Good talk. Right.
Right. Plus,
Like,
you're going to have better questions, and like they're not going to be selling you your product and then feeling like they can't know as much as anyone in the audience about it. And then they get, when they can't answer XYZ question, you're like, they didn't even know. Yeah, because they don't work there.
Yeah.
It's crap.
Or,
but they should know that same answer about whatever they're selling now. Like if that's a legit question, I'm with you.
Yeah. And I'm so sick of the whole, well, if they really wanted to work here.
Oh, screw you.
If you are under the impression that your company is the only one out there, then you are really not paying attention. Like, why did they not know this certain thing? Because they have a life and they're humans and they're applying to other places. And you should probably remember that as an organization. You are not the only dog in this hunt.
But if they haven't looked at your website at all before coming in to meet, or done, you know, like that's also BS on the candidate's part. But like to think of like they don't know that we're a NoSQL database. Oh my God, like whatever. But yeah, they don't know how many people work here and they can't find out themselves. Like I've got questions.
Companies have really bad websites with that level of information, to be fair. But yes, I totally agree with you. Like they do need to do their own, candidates need to do their own due diligence.
Yeah.
But also, like I have known recruiters who have called candidates and the candidate didn't know who the fuck they were or what this job was.
Right.
And they're like, well, obviously they were not interested. So I didn't put them forward. I'm like, well, then you're a fucking moron. Because if they're looking for work, they've probably applied to 30 places, been contacted by another 40 if they're any good. And the fact that they didn't remember your particular shit today when you decided to call them, really?
Right. Yeah, no, I do not expect someone to perform on a cold call.
Yeah.
I do expect if you've put yourself on my calendar, then, and I've reached out to you about a job and you put yourself on my calendar, that before 5 minutes before we talk, you looked at the website. Like I feel like that's
calling from. Yeah.
Low expectations. But if I like call you like, hey, Michelle, I was so excited about your resume to my application and now I want to talk to you. I don't expect you to know anything.
Yeah.
because I'm surprising you and I know that you're applying for jobs.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I don't understand when it just feels like everything's so fucking adversarial.
Right. It
That
shouldn't be.
hiring managers are like, well, they need to jump through 5 flaming hoops to prove their worthiness. What are you talking about? This is not
Right.
some medieval quest for some princess bullshit. This is, are you the right skill set and personality to work with me? And that's all
Yeah.
this is.
That's
This
all
is
this
a
is.
modern transaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't like it, but you know what I'm talking about. You have heard those hiring
Mhm.
managers who definitely feel like, they are doing everybody a favor that
Mhm.
they ever interview. And I am constantly surprised by that belief. And I hear it from companies of all sizes.
Mhm. Oh
I
yeah.
hear big companies who are like, well, we are so and so.
Mhm.
And did you think that your money spends differently than anybody else's? Was that your impression?
Right. No, they can just pay people over market so that they stay there.
And I get that.
Like
But
golden handcuffs.
but let's talk about GE in the last 10 years, right?
Mhm.
And all of the other folks who thought they were too big to fail,
Mhm. How's that going?
right? Like
Yeah.
you're never too big to fail.
No.
Never. And when you stop being able to get top talent because you're a dick, I
Sorry. Not
personally
sorry.
love the trend in talent right now that people are just saying, no, no.
Mhm. Mhm.
I know so many job seekers who've been out of work for a while. They say no to interviews for companies that they feel are unreasonable.
Yep.
They say no to roles with companies that they feel are unreasonable. And that can include things like there's no reason that this role can't be remote.
Mhm.
I'm not going to go to your office. I
Mm-mm.
don't choose to sit for 3 hours in traffic, even for 1 day a week. Because
Mm-mm.
why? Because you felt like looking at me? What? Go fuck
Right.
yourself. Like,
Mhm.
I'm here for that all day long.
Yep.
Um, what is your take on that? And what is your advice to employers and job seekers around that?
Well, it's a candidate's market. So you better make yourself a great place to work and you better do it authentically because if they come in and see that you were full of poo during the interviews, they're out the door.
Yeah.
I also think with return to work and everything else, I actually wrote an article. I published an article on my little blog today about this, about if you want someone to come in. I was writing about interviewing, but I think in the office is the same thing. There better be a really good value add. So if I'm working for a company and they say, we want you in 1 day a week, that 1 day, I need to be like energized by it. I need to be collaborating. I need to be doing things that it's really hard to do from home those days in the office. If I'm going in, putting on my headphones and doing the same thing I do at home, I'm pissed. If I'm going in and having a full different experience that is really hard for me to get at home, I'm in. So as we think about back to work, we need to think about what is the in-office experience like. Now, for certain people that have like little kids at home and they're like, get me to the office, they don't care that they're putting on their headphones and it's silent.
Absolutely.
But we need to talk to our general people and we do need to make sure the office is a different type of experience. And I think with interviews, like I get incensed when I went in 7 times and then I didn't get a job. Why were you going in 7 times and why didn't you drop out of the process after 3? Sorry. But back in the day, pre-Rona, we'd be like, oh, I have a toothache and I got to go to the dentist for a half day. And then the next day it's like, oh, my crown fell out again or whatever. And you're lying to your boss and your boss like, oh, it's okay. Just go take care of that tooth. Oh my gosh. And of course you're at an interview. So now you've got that guilty, I just lied feeling. And then 2 weeks later, when you quit, your boss is like, well, why did I trust them? And like now with online, there is no reason you can't have the majority of your interviews over Zoom when the person can scatter them in between other meetings and not have that I just lied to everybody feeling and
Yeah.
not feel like crap when someone checks in on them because they were sick and all that stuff. And so we need to preserve that for our candidates. and think about what part of the process really does benefit from in person and limit that.
And if any part benefits from in
Sure.
person. Like
some
it
don't
being
need
nice to meet people is not the same as this is a data point, to use your earlier language.
Yes.
So yeah, I know, I agree. I think it also has a lot of potential issues in terms of accessibility. Like
Sure.
when you look at people, is your physical space appropriate for people of all needs, etc.?
Yes.
Probably not, because
Probably
almost
not.
nobody is. And so allowing people to be in a space of their own design that's comfortable for them
Yeah.
with a technological solution that can help with any number of things innately, I think that, yeah, all of that makes a lot of sense.
Totally.
Now, the people who it is easier for them to go to all of these without having to claim toothaches are people who are unemployed.
Right.
What is your take on candidates who have gaps on their resume?
Okay. Like, okay. So I let me go back. So if I get your resume and you haven't worked since 2017, I'm like, that's a long time. And there's no explanation. Like it just goes to 2017 and stops and it's 2021. Like, I'm like, huh? Now, I don't care if you put 2017 to present, like taking care of kids, like that makes sense to me, or consulting, or taking care of a sick family member, or personal time off. But when it looks like you just stopped, I have questions. So, and I want you to be able to speak to after 2017. So if you're perfect up to 2017, I'm like, but as long as you can account for the 4 years in between.
So yeah, I would agree. And I feel the same way. I don't think that having a gap makes you a bad candidate. I don't really give a shit personally. I care about where your skills are right now. And as long as we're all happy that your skills are fine, let's do this.
Right.
So that's all I care about. But you and I both know that we are the minority in the recruitment trade on that. But the majority of recruiters look at it and like, oh, they've been out of work for 3 years. Nope.
So, even more of a reason to show why your skills are up to date. So, especially in any field, right? Think of HR and recruiting, how much has changed since 2017, right? So, what I need to prove as a candidate is how I've kept up to date. So, but like, let's go even easier than our lovely space of HR and recruiting. If I'm a Java developer and I've stopped working in 2017, I've got rusty old Java. How am I showing that I have continued to evolve with the Java community? Maybe now I know JavaScript and TypeScript and I've added to my skills so that when you get me, you don't get 2017 Java, you get 2021 Java.
Yeah.
So that's what I need to show on my resume, even if I haven't been sitting at a desk in a job. Like, I need to show that I'm just as current and relevant as somebody else. And I know that if you are like taking care of kids or doing whatever, that's hard to do. But as a job seeker, you're at a huge disadvantage if you're not.
Yeah. I do have to, I'm going to tell you this story, and I think you'll find this amusing.
Yes.
So I think, my husband is a SharePoint guy for my sins. And so he was interviewing somebody not long ago, and they were like, and I don't remember the details, so I'm just going to make up dates because I don't care enough about SharePoint to remember. But they were like, yeah, well, I've mostly used SharePoint 2019, blah, 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 blah. And my husband's like, hey, have you now? So, tell me more of this SharePoint 2019. Like, well, it's been the standard for the last 2 years, blah, blah, blah. And my husband, who, as you know, literally wrote the book on SharePoint, goes, okay. And he was like, we went through the whole interview and he goes, there is no SharePoint 2019. That's not a thing. He was like, they started to release one and then they pulled back and instead rolled it in to the next one. And he was like, and anybody who was actually in the SharePoint world would know that. So when you said about the Java 2021, that's all I could think about was the story that he told me the other day. I was like, Liz, there is no Java 2021. And if you think you're coding in Java 2021, I don't know what you're doing, but it's not Java. But so yeah, I find that amazing about candidates that especially when they have a gap or anytime that there is something on there that they feel is a disadvantage, that they just make shit up.
Oh, don't make shit up. You are going to get caught. You're dumb. It's not going to go well.
My husband has been corrected on SharePoint. That's his favorite.
Awesome.
They're like, I think you'll find that SharePoint does such and so. He's like, I'm really pretty sure that it's not. That and he even tried, like, he's not a dick, as much as I'm not making him sound great right here, but like, he's not. And so he'll be like, I think maybe you're confused. Are you talking about this and this functionality? And they'll be like, no. And I just don't understand it. And I think it goes back to that whole like adversarial thing. I recruiting for some roles at the moment. And the other day I was doing a call and I was just like, so what are your salary needs for this position? Which is a question that I need to know the answer for to make sure. This dude, I swear to God, I spent 5 minutes and he would not tell me the answer.
Oh, I hate that.
His answer was like, well, I'm not sure that I'm comfortable stating that. I'm like, what? He was like, well, I mean, it would depend on a number of factors. Great. Why don't you give me a ballpark?
It usually does.
Your ballpark and my ballpark are the same ballpark, and then we can move on. But
we're not
consistently. And I think that this is the fault of asshole snake oil dealer career coaches who are like, don't blink first. Make them tell you the answer. You can negotiate for 40,000 more. No, you fucking can't.
No.
Whoever is telling candidates the good negotiators get 40K more is fucking lying to them.
Yep.
There is a band. Like, I mean, correct me if your experience is different, but my experience is they already know what they're going to fucking pay within a set band. And the only thing that you can negotiate on is where they have determined you fall on that band.
Yes. And if they determine that you're a senior blah or a blah, then you're going to be paid in the senior blah band. And that's all they can do. So when the people who say don't ever, don't show your cards, say what you want. Like, don't undersell yourself. Don't oversell yourself, but say what you want and know your own worth and your market. That's it. And just like, let's not have a KGBS conversation. Like, let's get it out there. What do you need to take this job? Because if I can't give it to you, I want to find out right now.
Yeah.
I want to go back to your husband's story for a minute about, what people correcting and people like trying. I think, and people do this to recruiters all the time, right? It's like, maybe it's the online thing, but like the amount of stuff I've seen online, I feel like maybe I've been more aware lately of like people just, why do you think people want to know that about you? Or why do you think you can talk for all of this group? Or why do you feel like anyone wants to hear your opinion? Like, why do you feel like you need to be combative with folks? Or like, there are a bunch of recruiters that I love out there that, are very active on Twitter or LinkedIn, whatever. And then people come at them nasty. Like,
oh yeah,
that's not how the process is. Yeah, honey, it is. And I'm here sharing my knowledge. And if you don't like it, don't read it. Thanks. Bye.
Well, I think you and I both like Amy.
We do.
And I have ordered my I am the ATS bot shirt. I'm excited for it to come.
I had my recruiting barnacle coffee mug this morning.
Yes. So, but she's a great example of that, right?
Yeah.
Where she's like, look, she is so transparent. She goes out of her way. That's how she started the whole YouTube thing, was just trying to stop the bullshit. And people just won't listen. Like the whole continued thing about the fact that, I got rejected because of a bot. No, buddy.
No.
It just only took me 30 seconds to reject your ass because it wasn't a good match. Right. I don't know what to tell you. I get it that you feel very strongly that you're a one-to-one match for this role. I, as a recruiter, disagreed based on what you sent me.
Lizbot says no.
We need to get you a shirt that just says Lizbot says no.
Yes.
I feel like Lizbot may be a whole new like marketing approach.
Could
Never
be.
mind Liz Bronson Consulting. I feel like Lizbot, that's where it's at. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I love
Yeah.
that.
Uh-huh. Lizbot says no. But I mean, I had someone, a personal friend who asked me, and this person, you know, they asked me, why are all recruiters stupid? And I'm like, well, gee, I have a hard time answering that. And then it was like, I had experience in 2002 that was so relevant to the job and they didn't see it. I'm like, because it was so far down on your resume that nobody cared.
I've been doing this exact job for the last 20 years. What is wrong with you? Can't you read? Well, friend,
I can't.
you've been doing this exact job for the last 20 years, but that's not what your resume looks like. Your resume has this title. Well, that's what they call them at such and so corp. How the fuck did you think I knew that?
Mm-mm.
A, B, your company that you've been working for is this big, and the company I'm hiring for is this big. And the fact that you had a director of operations for a company this big does not mean that you are ready to be the director of an operation for a company this big. Like that's just, and I can't. And people do it to me, like really well-intentioned, sweet, loving people whom I adore. They'll be like, Michelle, director of talent acquisition for Microsoft, you should apply. No, bitch, I should not.
No, because I'd hate that job.
A, Microsoft are not my preferred employer. B, no, experientially, I'm not ready. Is my last job title working for somebody else, director of talent acquisition? Yes, it is. Do I understand what a director of talent acquisition does? Yes, I do. But there's a difference between doing that for an organization of 3,000 people and doing it for 300,000 people.
Very.
And when I say there's a difference, I mean, like, you can't even see one point from the other.
No.
And I can't, like, we had a client who was really frustrated with his resume because he had decided that he was going to go be one of the big salespeople and earn $250K. And I was like, if you think that that's what the top salespeople at Dell make, you are so far from being a top salesperson that there's nothing I can do for you, my friend. Like,
Totally.
that's just not that is a laughable understanding. And not trying to be a dick about it, but it's just like, that's not, they're like, well, you know, I've seen that the top sales positions at Dell are not advertised ever. They are filled by specialist headhunters, either internal or external, but they do not feel the need to put up an ad, no more than they put up an ad for CFO. Like that's not how the world works, my friend.
No.
And it's so frustrating when people don't want to listen, don't want to acknowledge the difference in scope of experience as well.
Oh, it's crazy. It's
crazy. So you made a comment earlier that was kind of a throwaway comment, but you're like, oh yeah, you can make so much money in recruitment. Obviously you've been doing this forever, so you must make millions of dollars. Obviously. The 1% right here on my podcast. So how do you respond when people say, Liz, how much do you make?
I usually say billions, but when I'm talking to someone realistically, I tell them how I'm paid, because I think the true, if you understand my business model, you understand my business. And my business model is that everyone on my team, including myself, are all paid hourly. And so we are an extension of, or we are your HR recruiting team. And so anything you ask us to do, you are going to pay hourly for that thing that we do. We are super ethical. We're like the worst business people, because we're like, yes, we filled that in 3 weeks. That was like an 80% savings to the client. They would have paid 50 grand and they paid 6. Like, we're so psyched about that, which is clearly shows that we're idiots, but we love it because it proves our model.
Yeah.
And so we want to prove our model, right? And so I tell people that, and like, I have people who work for me and they're fabulous. And I upcharge what I pay them per hour and charge the client. But when I'm having a conversation with them about whatever, I don't charge for my time managing them. And so that's how I justify how I upcharge.
Yeah, plus an admin fee. Sure.
Absolutely. But I also, pay for the business insurance and all, this database,
the servers and all of the costs of doing business.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. So, yeah. So I make good money. I would say I've done pretty well for myself. The thing for me that is the best commodity that I have, and you can ask me if you want to get more detail, we can, but the best commodity I have is I work for myself and I have flexibility, because as a mom of 2 kids, I need that more than anything. And so my boss is lenient on when I get my work done, as long as I get it done.
My boss has the same advantages, and she doesn't care how much I cuss in public, which is amazing.
Yeah.
First time I have had that from an employer, that I can just F-bomb left, right, and center. And my boss never gives me a hard time.
My boss really accepts me for who I am.
That's good. That's good that you and your boss are
very, very close.
So we are out of time, but before we go, what have we not talked about that we need to cover?
So I guess who would hire me is someone who needs help recruiting HR people stuff. Where do they find me? LizBronsonConsulting.com. I also do career coaching. So I'll do one-on-one to help somebody get unstuck in wherever they're stuck. And then I also have a podcast with my dear friend, Kat Troyer, and it's called Real Job Talk. And you can find it. We talk about all kinds of things, career and job search and all this stuff. So for people who want tips on that. And on Twitter, I'm Liz B Consult, and LinkedIn, I'm Liz Bronson.
Awesome. Well, we will have all of those links, including to your fabulous podcast, in the notes for sure. Thank you so much for joining today, Liz. Always a pleasure.
Always. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
Thanks. You've been listening to Hey, I Want Your Job. For more information on how you can get your own awesome job, visit ONH Consulting at www.onhconsulting.com. We offer incredible resumes, no-nonsense career advice, and real-world tips for landing a job in today's market. Check us out on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Insta for more insider information. Soon, you'll be hearing us say, I'm Michelle Olivier, and hey, I want your job.